Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Road to Retirement. My name is Chris Anselmo with Tony Shore, our co-host. How you doing today, Tony?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show once again, Chris. This is good.
I'm gonna try
Good to see you. And I've been great busy. I love the fall, though. Seeing all the Halloween decorations, cooler nights. I love it.
And the Twins advance.
And the Twins advance for the first time in, I don't know, a long
16
time.
years or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, we haven't won a playoff game in
Yeah.
over 16 years,
Yeah,
17 years. So, let alone 2. So we're on our way.
I didn't see, were the games at home or were they away?
They were at home.
Yeah,
so
okay. Because I
that was
think
good.
I was watching a few last night, and I think the Diamondbacks won both games in Milwaukee. So Milwaukee's out.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
The Brewers
I
are already out.
love October baseball though. It's just it's so good.
It is good. This is the fun if you're gonna watch baseball or get into it, this is the time of year. Yeah.
And there's I'm watching one game on a TV and one game on my phone, so because I don't have the ability to split my screen on the TV. So
playoff baseball is a lot more fun. I mean, I'm really into pro football and watching football. And that's always exciting. Baseball, it's like those first couple hundred games, it's like the regular season, like a series of 7, who's up, I mean, it's crazy.
I love baseball, but I do think they should shorten the season. I mean, football and basketball gets it done with 82 games. I think they can get it done with 125 games or something. But because it's really, they play 162 games in like 180 days. So it's
crazy.
It's amazing they survived the season.
It is.
So today we haven't talked about Social Security in a while, so I thought we would just do a refresher. Things have changed over the years since we first started doing this.
That's for sure.
They changed the laws back in 2014 or 15 or so to eliminate some of the strategies we used to use to maximize Social Security. I think the government always blamed it on the wealthy trying to get through a loophole or something like that, but that's just politics. But they did, there were better strategies that allow you to, wait and increase your Social Security. But the one concern is Social Security might run out of money, and I don't think that'll happen because I think they'll make changes so it doesn't run out of money, because people people have been paying into this system for 40 some years before you collect it, and for it to be broke, that seems a little
well, they've changed it about 100 times since it was started. And they've come to this point before. In the 80s or early 90s, they had to, it was said, the Social Security fund's gonna run out of money, we got to do something, and they raised the age, the full retirement age for people, and they raised the threshold. There are things they can do to shore it up that'll last another 30 to 60 years, and they're going to do that, right?
I think the things they'll do is, one, they'll make and we'll talk about the wage cap and all that kind of stuff, and I think they'll change the ages. Personally, I think it should just be like you get Social Security when you're ready to collect Medicare. So you're 65, that's when you start. So, collecting early. So let's talk a little bit about it. Most people know that you can start collecting Social Security as early as 62, or you can wait all the way till 70, or you can wait later, but your check doesn't get any bigger if you wait till after 70. So, So most people listening, I would think their full retirement age is somewhere 66, 65, 67. I think mine's 67.
Mine is 67 as well.
So, full retirement age for your listeners is that's when you will receive 100% of what you're supposed to receive. So if you take it early before something called full retirement age, you're going to get less. So at 62, you get about 75% of what you would get at 66, let's say.
Right.
And then if you wait all the way up till 70, you can get 132% of what you would get at 66. So there's always this dilemma, like, when do I take it? When's the best time to take it? Because there's 96 different months you can pick to take it. And if you wait till 70, yes, you get the biggest check, but you get less checks, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, you get fewer checks. So there's a sweet spot in there, but it's different for everyone, isn't
yeah,
it, Chris?
yeah. So we actually, you can see running across the border, and for those of you who are listening, we have this free Social Security maximization software that we run reports for people, and it really depends. I mean, the software's genius part is if you're married, right? I mean, if you're single, it's pretty linear, right? So, but if you're married, and whether or not your spouse has worked all the quarters and things like that, so we'll get into that a little bit. But so I was reading a stat that 9 out of 10 people at 65 are receiving Social Security benefits. So it sounds like a lot of people aren't waiting. And I think as the more and more we've done these Social Security reports, we found that usually somewhere in the 67th year is usually the sweet spot. So maybe people are taking a little bit too early, but people take it early for reasons. One, they don't know about this, right? They didn't hear that you can maximize your Social Security. Two, I think some people would tell me, look, I hate my job. Like I can't take it anymore. Not like being a radio host. I mean, come on. I mean, hey, you can do that. You can do that. You can do that job forever as long as your voice holds out. Right? So,
that's true. That's true. I plan on it, Chris.
Yeah,
I plan.
Yeah, we have a guy in our area of the woods, and he does like the at our high school. He does the announcements at the high school games.
Oh, sure.
Just got that great radio voice,
Yeah.
So he'll be doing it forever. So
sure.
So 62 to 70, when's the magic time? That's always a question. So now reasons to take it early may be, like you said, you hate your job. Maybe you don't have longevity. Maybe you're not healthy. Maybe you just flat out need the money, right? You didn't save enough. So those are things I'll consider. Now, how does it really get funded? So if you look at your paycheck, when you get your paycheck, there's a deduction for something called FICA.
Yep.
I remember my son got his first job, and he was out of town when he got his first deposit. He goes, Dad, I thought I was supposed to get like $1,000. I only got like 700 and something. I'm like, yeah, it's called taxes.
Yeah.
He's like, what? And who's this FICA guy? Right?
Yeah, FICA. It sounds like a swear word because it is.
Yeah.
It seems like a dirty word, and it kind of is.
So the employee pays about 6.2% into it, and then the employer matches it and pays 6.2%, and then it gets capped out at, I think this year it's like $160,000. I think it's $160,200 or something. So if you're making more than that, you don't pay anything more in, and that may be one of the things they change. That they will take the cap off, or they'll increase the cap significantly, so people are paying more in.
Right.
But then one of the issues is, if I pay more in, do I get more? Right. So if you are a professional athlete, made $20 million a year, is it really fair that he should pay, Social Security on all that income when he's going to get capped out at maybe $3,000 or $4,000 a month anyhow? So there's only a maximum that you receive from Social Security. So if they do take the caps off, then maybe they're going to have to raise what people get. So remember, you're paying in some, and the employer's paying in some. Yeah. And then, how they really calculate it is you have to have 40 credits. So you have to have 40 quarters where you make more than $1,640, I believe it is. So if you don't have 40 quarters, then those quarters are zeros, right? So then they calculate based on your best 35 years. That's your number. So you have to have these 40 quarters in your best 35 years. So for those, a couple of times we've done this scenario, and people are like 2 or 3 quarters short. So go get a job, or actually you could probably create a little business and pay in. So, but you should check that out before you turn on the Social Security. So basically, it's 10 years of working. All right, 40 quarters. So, and then it's your best 35 years. Again,
most people though
are going to qualify.
Have no problem qualifying. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a generation ago, when mom stayed home and
Yeah,
didn't
that's
work,
not
and the kids, kids
that
are,
doesn't
you
happen
know, so that
anymore.
doesn't happen much anymore. But
Yeah.
so if you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, maybe you didn't get your quarters in. You know, 40 years ago there wasn't many stay-at-home dads, right? But
Right.
so, um, so what happens if the question always, so let's say your full retirement age for a lot of the listeners is 66. So what happens if you take it early?
Yeah. What does
So
happen? I
so
mean, we're talking about the difference here. You're going to talk about it makes a lot of difference when you look at it over your entire retirement. It can make
yeah,
a lot of difference
yeah. So
financially, right?
yeah, well, I should have brought up a report. When we run these reports, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars between you
Right.
and your spouse. So, let's say you're of full retirement age. Let's make it easy, 66, and you're getting, let's make it easy, $1,000 a month. All right.
Yep.
If you take it at 62, you're only going to get 750, and then
It's
you're
a big
stuck getting 750, and then
You're
uh,
locked in.
yeah, you're locked in the cost of living adjustment. So you can't just go flip the switch and say, no, I want to wait till I'm 66. So once you take, now look, there isn't one exception. You can do it once. You have a 12-month window. If you think you made a mistake, you can undo it, but you got to pay the money back.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they changed that back in 2014 and 15 because the financially astute people were taking when they're 62, and then paying it all back when they were 70, and basically an interest-free loan for all those years, and then got the higher amount. But so they put a kibosh to that. They said, look, you could do it once within 12 months, but other than that, you're stuck at the lower rate. So once you're stuck at the lower rate, the other things that happens is if you're still working, you got issues there too. So if you're still working and you're not full retirement age, so if you're not 66 in our example, and I think next year it's about $23,000 you can make in a year. So if you make over that, every $2 you make over this limit, they take back $1. So if let's say you retire at 62 and you go and you're still working, or you retired at 62, you didn't retire. You took your Social Security at 62 because you just thought that's what you're supposed to do, and nobody told you about. You can get penalized for taking it early. So so these are all the things you kind of look at when we're looking at people's retirement. We do look at the taxability of it too, because it's another thing that was unfavorable. I think it was probably, a long time ago. It's probably back in the 80s or 90s when they started to make Social Security potentially taxable. You're like, how could that be taxable? You took it out of my paycheck. You took it on my paycheck, and you didn't, and now you want to tax it. So it'll depend on how much you're making. So you could get double whammy. If you take it early, you could be paying tax on your Social Security. Plus, if you're making too much money, they're taking some of your Social Security back. So you really got to be sharp on these points, because what we said earlier is if you do it wrong, you're stuck. Like, you just can't undo it. So, Tony, I can't hear you.
Oh, if you're listening and you haven't, what I'm saying is if you're listening and you haven't yet taken Social Security, or you just took it, then there is time to make these changes and get a strategy in place. Don't file for Social Security or start taking Social Security until you've had that report run or met with Chris and his staff there, because it is the calculations. There's like 20,000 calculations that go into it to determine your sweet spot. And it's not going to be your brother-in-law might have said, hey, I retired then, or your neighbor or your coworker. Oh, you got to take it at this time. You hear that all the time. You got to take it at 62. That's how you're going to get the most. Or you got to wait until you're 70. And neither of those are probably true for you. And we're talking the difference between tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over your retirement, right, Chris?
We've definitely seen hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially when you're married. Because
that's
the ramifications, the higher earning spouse. So let's talk a little bit about being married. So
spousal benefits.
So the spousal benefits are like the spouse can have their own benefits, right? If they worked enough and they've got enough quarters and enough years, they can have their own. But generally, so let's say that, Tony, you're working and your wife wants to claim Social Security. Now she's going to get the higher of half of yours.
Yep.
Or hers, whichever's higher.
Sure.
So it used to be, you used to be able to play some games. We used to be able to say, well, I'll take half of my husband's or my spouse's and let mine grow. And then when mine goes above what I'm getting now, I'll flip the switch and I'll take my benefits. So they did away with a lot of those shenanigans. Unless you're born before like 1954, which most people who are born then are already taking their Social Security, right? Because they're almost 70 now. So
they've already filed. Yeah.
right. So some of these strategies that we used to use aren't available. So if Tony, if your wife, she works, right? Or does she
Yep.
work? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe Tony's claiming on your wife. So anyway,
I might. Yeah. Yeah.
So you get the better of the two.
Yeah.
So when we do these calculations, or when the software does the calculation, you can't do them by hand, right? So
right.
we have to look at what's best for the family as a whole. So the family as a whole, maybe it says, Tony, you take yours at 67 and 10 months, and she waits till she's 70, or she claims it at whatever age. So the software generally comes back and says, look, this is the ultimate time, and then here's like the next 2 or 3 best times to do it, because oftentimes people don't do what the ultimate one. They're like, I'm not waiting that long. But at least you have the information. Right. It's in front of you. You can say yes or no, and they'll say, okay, well, this is the second best strategy. This is the third best strategy. So,
and you have to look at your time horizon too. I mean, you have to look at your longevity prospects. Like if your family,
and we can tweak the report. So if your family, like your family, Tony, they live in the hundreds, right? So you might say, well, because what happens is the report starts at, we're going to use the general life expectancy of what it says. So if the general life expectancy is 82, whatever it is, then these how these numbers work. But if you could say, hey, everyone in my family lives at least 90 something, we'll tweak that, and then it might say, most likely yours is going to say wait till you're 70, right?
Right.
So
Although Chris, I'm trying to eat enough pizza to lower my life expectancy.
Pizza and beer will do that. So if you do have health problems, that's you could tweak it the other way. You could say, look, I don't expect to live to 80, so let's tweak it the other way. So it's really neat report that we can customize for, like you said, it's not, everyone doesn't get the same report, right?
It's very different. Everybody's different. I mean, you could do 3 people in a row. It all says, you need to take it at your full retirement age. But a lot of times it is different. For some people, they're going to need it at 62. For some, they're going to want to wait because they have enough money and they might as well let it roll up. And for their spouse, it might make more sense if theirs is higher, so she can get that or he can get that. So I mean, with Social Security, it is interesting. And the tax of Social Security, you'd mentioned that most people don't, I think, realize that their Social Security can be taxed up to 85% of it is subject to tax, right?
And there's thresholds for whether you're single or married and things like that. And then if you're married filing separate, like there's no threshold, like it's immediately taxed. So those are some of the things we look at when we're looking at, are we going to pull money out of our IRAs and pay tax on them? Now, what happens is, let's say you do hit the threshold and you start paying tax on your Social Security. So every dollar you take out of your IRA, let's say you take $20,000 out, potentially you're paying tax on 40, right? Because every dollar you take out is another dollar Social Security is getting taxed. So those are things to kind of look at, and maybe you delay your Social Security and let it grow because you're going to take money out of your IRAs to live off for the next 5 years or 4 years. And so those are all the kind of things that go into looking whether or not it's the best time. So like in our example, if you were getting $1,000 when you're 66, if you wait to 70, you're going to get $1,320 a month, right? It's 132%. But you get less checks, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you have that's 4 years of checks. That's 48 less checks. So those are all part of that calculation. So it's not always, I'm just going to wait till 70. And like you said, you talk to 17 different people playing golf with, they're like, oh, you got to wait till you're 70. Oh, I'm taking them 62. So those are not
Yeah. Although the statistics show, I've read numerous articles and numerous things on Social Security. Of course, I always look at them when they talk about Social Security because I'm wondering, we talk about it on the show. And every time I do, they all say the studies show the majority of Americans take Social Security at 62.
Absolutely.
As soon as they can. And so it's interesting because a lot of those people have to be losing a lot of money, I would say, or leaving a lot on the table. Obviously, a lot of people just think they're not going to, no, I'm not going to live that long. I'm not going to live into my 90s. I'll be dead by I'm 75. I got to take it at 60.
Yeah. I was reading the stats, says 9 out of 10 people take it before they're 65.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that high. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, a lot of marriages end in divorce these days. I mean, over 50% of the marriages. So what happens if you were married or divorced? So situation comes up. If you are divorced, you have some other opportunities. You could take yours, or if you were married for at least 10 years, you can claim off of your spouses. But a couple things. One, you have to be full retirement age, and your ex has to be on Social Security.
Sure.
So once they're on Social Security, then you can calculate whether it's better for you to take yours or the spousal benefit. And I think this was really designed to protect the people who, like we said before, used to be stay-at-home moms. If they didn't have enough quarters and then they got divorced, their Social Security is in jeopardy. So they say, well, if you were married at least 10 years, then you could claim off of your spouse. But
you're saying your spouse has to have already filed. You can't claim on theirs before they file.
Right. Okay. So, and then now you also have to look at, some people get married more than twice, believe it or not. So you could have 2 ex-spouses.
Yep. Larry King.
Yeah, so you get to pick the higher of the 2. Ex-spouse doesn't necessarily mean divorce. You could be widowed, right? So widowed's got even a little, more options. I think widowed you can claim as early as 60.
Yeah,
not 62. So those are things to look at. But then the widower issues. There's also whether or not you're full retirement age, or whether or not yours is higher, and if you're making too much money. And here in some of the states, we have this offset for if you're working on if you have a governmental job. So those are all the things you got to look at, and they're just overwhelming. I know we looked at it for my sister not too long ago. For one, she was divorced and her ex-spouse died. So tragic thing. He died. It was sad, but he died. So we looked at whether my sister could take it, but because my sister's 62 now. So, and actually 63 now. So, but anyhow, she was still working and she's a teacher. And they're like, well, you make too much of your current job. You can't get this benefit. Right. Now, she wasn't working. Maybe she can get it, but
right.
So there's a lot of things that go into Social Security and max.
A lot of rules, just like any government program. There's a lot of rules, and that's what's great about working with somebody like yourself, and the huge advantage you have in helping your clients and our listeners out there is that you're not only a financial advisor, you're a tax professional as well. Right. And so a lot, you stay on top of these government rules and regulations, and it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it does, because one, we know the taxability of it. So now the taxability of it, you're not going to really get around it, but you might be able to delay when you take it to get around it. But once you take it, the tax rates are tax rates are tax rates.
Yep.
But there are certain things we can do on the investment side to maybe, instead of having your money in mutual funds that are throwing off a bunch of interest and dividends and capital gains every year, which can create your Social Security to get more taxed, right? So maybe you use some tax deferred investment vehicles, so you're earning the interest and dividends, but it's not showing up on your tax return. So those are some of the stuff we can do. And then we caution people who want to continue to work. We want to make sure you're full retirement age. Because we talked about earlier, if you're not full retirement age, 66 or 67, whatever yours is, and I think that if you make more than like $21,000 a year, they're going to start taking some of your money back, and you're stuck at the lower level.
Yeah, a
So,
lot of people make that mistake. They
Yeah.
they think once they turn 62, they need to take Social Security, file for Social Security because they want to get as many checks as possible. They don't realize, well, I'm still going to work full time, but I get to take Social Security too. Doesn't work that way.
I really think it'd be easier if they just coordinated it all with, once you get on Medicare, you get Social Security.
Yeah,
Right.
it should just start for everybody at 65.
And forget the games. You can't claim it early, and you can't wait to 70.
Right.
Right. I mean,
Wouldn't that simplify? But that would simplify.
why?
Chris.
Why simplify anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because because if most people, full retirement age is around 66, 67 now. So
Yeah.
why not just make it 65? Say, like, you can't take it before 65,
Right.
and you can't wait anymore. So
Right. And why pay the roll up? I think in the
Yeah.
long run, they would actually end up saving money.
Yeah,
the
because I mean,
government.
65 is kind of somewhere between 62
Yeah.
and 70, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, you go on Medicare, you get your Social Security, and then there's no games about who gets what and whether I wait and all that kind of stuff. You'd still probably have to have some of the spousal benefits, but
Yeah.
the other
You
one,
have to have death benefits, spousal
Yeah.
benefits, and yeah.
the other one that people,
Survival.
and we talked about a little bit on the show before, is people don't realize that if you have a second marriage, actually, when I first realized this, it happened with your employer. Right? He had
Yep.
a second marriage,
Yep.
much younger wife, had kids with the younger wife, right?
Yep.
So, and then he went on Social Security, and his minor children get checks too, believe it or not. So that could really be a great benefit, because if you can get checks for your minor children for 18 years, that might pay for college.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know how much they get a month, and then there is a max on how much any one family can get. So
Right.
these are all different calculations, but let's say your kids could get $500,000 a month for 18 years. That's nothing to sneeze at either.
No.
So if you want a free Social Security Max report, call our office 440-886-3550. Talk to me, Tony, Jeff, whoever. We can get you one. You'll need to get your Social Security statements. We'll need to know your full retirement age, and we need to know your full retirement amount when you're retired, and your spouses. So, and those aren't that hard to get if you establish your little account at socialsecurity.gov. I think it's ssa.gov. You can log on and get your. I don't think they send them out anymore. I think you have to go online and get them.
Nope.
So.
Yep. It's online. Yep.
So, Tony, anything else before we go? You think I missed anything there?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
God bless Social Security.
God bless Social Security.
I thought you were going to say go Twins.
Yeah. Well, and then you covered this at the beginning, but I just like this guy's voice so much.
Here's another truth. Social Security is dying.
Maybe I just told people to wait. Maybe we should all jump in early. Right? So, but
yeah, that's a common misconception. It's not
gonna run out of money, because they'll just tweak it so it doesn't. Right?
They'll shore it up, so to speak, as I like to say.
Tony shore it up.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to let that die out completely. That's for sure. Of course, never say never with our current government. Obviously, they have their issues.
Oh well, Congress has their own retirement plan, so they don't really care if Social Security goes under. Right?
Congress. Oh my gosh,
that's a whole other. We should do one. They say never talk about politics. We should do one.
Oh yeah, we should. I mean, at some point, if it gets any crazier, we're going to have to. I mean, it's all people are talking about at some point.
I mean, you think? I'm sure some of the people saw that show. What is it? The Designated Survivor.
Oh yeah,
that was a good show.
Yeah, with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah,
that was.
I'm not advocating that the whole. If anyone's listening, I'm not advocating that the whole government go down. But
yeah,
but that I did even as a lawyer, I didn't know that existed.
Oh really? I had heard of it before the show, but I just heard rumors of it. But I'll tell you what, that show was amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that was really good. I highly recommend it.
It was little. I mean, when the president says, "I'm never lying to the people," like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, was refreshing.
Yeah, in some circumstances, you're probably going to have to at that
No.
point, but who knows?
Not necessarily
Uh,
lying. You just don't reveal
yeah.
all of it. Right. So,
Exactly.
all right,
Yeah, you're
well,
going to spin. That's
okay.
for sure.
All right. Half hour into this, Tony. So why don't you take us
Yeah.
home?
All right. Well, great show today, Chris. And that does it for today's episode of The Road to Retirement with our host, Chris Anselmo.